Section 2. Retell lecture. You will hear a lecture. After listening to the lecture, please retell what you have just heard from the lecture in your own words. You will have 40 seconds to give your response. Lecture A.
So, continuing our series of lectures on modernism, we now turn to architecture, and in particular to the work of Frank O. Gehry. Now, I'm not going to go into his career in detail. It is enough to say that early on, he was, like other modernist architects, tied to the rectangle, the straight line, and so on. Often their buildings would have this basic shape, and they would just add bits of decoration like splashes of color or pointless balconies. Soon enough, Gehry wanted to break away from straight lines and grid-like designs. He wanted the freedom to experiment with other shapes, curves, and unusually angled roofs. What helped him with this was the computer, which allowed him to visualize and experiment with complex shapes and to work on the whole design as one piece, without the added decoration being thrown in as an afterthought. Architecture as art, if you like. Or sculpture even. He himself said that he had struggled with crossing the line between architecture and sculpture. Now, I want to talk about one building in particular, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, which I think you'll agree is a masterpiece.
The general topic of the lecture is modernism and architecture, but the speaker focuses on the work of modernist architect Frank Gehry, in particular the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. Gehry wanted to break away from the usual straight-line designs of other architects and experiment with other shapes, especially curves. He thought of architecture as an art like sculpture, and the museum is a brilliant example of his art.
What's tested? The purpose of this section is to assess your ability to make an oral presentation based on information taken from an academic lecture. Both speaking and listening skills are assessed. You will listen to a lecture on an academic topic and then retell what you have heard in your own words. The lectures are each between 60 and 90 seconds long. There are either 3 or 4 lectures. The number will depend on which form of the PTE academic you are given. There will always be at least 3 lectures. You will have 40 seconds to retell each lecture. Study the picture if there is one. It will give you a general idea about the context of the lecture. From the picture, try to predict what the lecture will be about. You will have 3 seconds to get ready for the start of the lecture. Take notes. Use the erasable noteboard booklet and pen provided. Do not try to write down every word you hear. Unless you are able to write quickly and accurately, you will probably fall behind and miss important information. Instead, focus on key words. Writing quickly is a key skill to master. Use abbreviations whenever possible. Ignore articles, example, a and the, unless they are necessary. Omitting the vowels from words is one way to increase writing speed. Key words include names, numbers, dates, times, and words and phrases that are stressed. Words and phrases that are repeated are usually central to the main idea. Focus on understanding the main idea of the lecture and the key points that support it. If the speaker draws a conclusion, be sure you have identified it. Try to identify the overall purpose of the lecture. Listen for clues to the speaker's attitude, opinion, or stance. Be aware of the speaker's tone of voice and delivery, and try to detect any emotions that are being conveyed. When the lecture ends, you will have approximately 10 seconds to review your notes. Use this time to organize what you will say. When you hear the tone, begin speaking. You will have 40 seconds to complete the task. While you are speaking, if you lose your train of thought, or find yourself at a loss for words, do not remain silent. The microphone turns off automatically if there is no sound for 3 seconds. If you need to pause to think or to check your notes, use pause fillers such as let me see, and so on. Saying something anything is better than saying nothing because once the microphone turns off, you cannot turn it on again.